Hi, so this is going to be a demonstration on how to create some lettering and artwork engraving within VCarve Pro, specifically for the Dash 6 upper bezel for our picture frame project. So I've opened VCarve. If you don't have a desktop icon, you can go down to the search bar and just start typing. It should pop up. So I'm going to create a new file, and in our job size, we have an 8-inch width by 1.1 inch length, and I believe our thickness is 60 thousandths of an inch. So I'm not going to change any of these other settings, so let's leave them as our default. If you really want to see it look like metal, you can go down and find a steel and hit OK. Okay, so we have our edge margins to consider. They should be 0.45 and 0.45. So what you can do is create a box, and this is just going to give you kind of a shape to use as a template to be able to visualize where that fastener is going to be located at. And then let's create a boundary for where our artwork is going to be engraved in. So I'm going to do 6 inches wide by 0.95 inches tall. And so you can either find the center of the page. You probably won't have that setting shown, so it'll probably look like this. So these lines will pop up. These are snap lines, so you can either click it directly in the middle of the page, or if you are having trouble with that, you can place it anywhere. And then come up to the top and find Edit, Align Selected Objects, and Centered Material. Now it also tells you a hotkey up there. So if you hold the function key and then press F9, then it'll also place it in the middle. So this isn't anything that we're going to be engraving or anything. It's just a box to show us where the boundaries of our artwork is going to be. So then if we want to do some text, let's go 5 by 0.95. So this is just going to give us a little bit of room on the sides to maybe drop some artwork in. And for our text, let's go Core Plus Aerospace. Something that we've encountered with these fonts, the cursive ones, the ones that are really joined up or close together. Sometimes the tool will think that it doesn't have enough space to get in there. So if you don't want to have to troubleshoot that, then I suggest going for more of a blocky, larger font. Something that will show up nicely. I think that one will be fine. Okay, you can change any of those settings that you want, and down here we might fiddle with these settings if you ever find that you're having a hard time with it not doing all the letters. Once you go in to start engraving, if there's a letter missing, then you might come back here to your create text and modify some of those settings. Okay, so now let's go up to the top bar here, go to the Toolpath tab, and we're going to show the Toolpaths tab. Now later on, when you are receiving help in the classroom, you might hear me or Mrs. Fry say to close this or close that. It's not going to be this X up here. You don't need to hide this. You always want to just keep it open once you start modifying toolpaths. If you have to close a tab, we're going to be talking about the word close near the bottom of the screen. So I have my words highlighted. Now I'm going to go over to my quick engraving toolpath. I'm going to click that. Now you need to make sure that your words are selected in purple. If they are not, and you go and you hit calculate, you're all done changing your settings, it's going to pop up an error saying no toolpath selected. That's because they are not selected there. It shows when they're selected because they're highlighted. Now for our depth / pressure, we're going to do this at 10 thousandths of an inch. Now remember the ones column, that's our tenths, our hundredths, and our thousandths of an inch. So we have 10 thou there. For this demonstration, I'm going to do the fill. You can also just do an outline. It's just going to trace around the edge. Although if you want to do that, then you can also use the profile. Okay, so I already have my tool here, but I'm going to pretend like I don't because none of you are going to have a tool in there likely. So I'm going to select my group of V-bits here, and I'm going to come down and I'm going to click this plus to create a new tool. I'm going to tell it that it's a V-bit. It's a 1-inch diameter tool with a 60-degree included angle, and it has 2 flutes. Now I'm going to create the settings. It's going to default to some settings that we need to change. So what I'm going to try and do is set my pass depth to be the same as my depth/pressure, so that theoretically it should do my engraving in a single pass. Now, step over is like when you're mowing the lawn, how much lawn are you going to mow over again that you already hit in the last pass? So if we do this at 100%, it's going to have nothing in between, and it's going to put a lot of wear and tear on the tool. So I want to get this to about 10%. And I'm going to leave my clearance pass the same way it is as it is. And for my spindle speed, I'm going to have it at 1000 RPM. And your feed units might default to inches per min. So I'm going to change it to inches per second just because that's what I'm used to seeing, and that way I don't have to think about this number times 60 to help troubleshoot any issues you might be having. So the chip load over here is a derived number. I can't type anything in there. So it's derived from my depth of cut, my feed rate, and my RPM. So it's a combination of those 3 things. So the specifications for the chip load for this particular tool from the manufacturer is about 6 thou per tooth. So these settings are probably something that I'm going to try out, and they seem safe because my chip load is matching what is recommended. Now, if you modify the RPM, okay, I now have doubled, or I've divided my chip load in half. So essentially you can increase your feed rate to match that. But for now, we're going to stick with 1000 RPM, feed rate of 0.2 of an inch per second, and plunge rate, we'll just keep that at 1 inch. It's not going to do too much plunging because everything's at the same depth. And then we need to make sure that our tool number is tool number 1. Otherwise, when the machine goes to start the toolpath, it's going to go over to the automatic tool changer and potentially grab a tool that we don't want to use. And that will not result in what we're trying to do. Let's go ahead and hit apply and select. And then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to hit calculate. Now I can simulate the tool. You notice how quick that went. We can dial down the speed a little bit, reset the preview, and we can actually see where the tool is going to go and what it's going to be doing. This is helpful for when you are doing pockets or other things that there might be other features in the part that you could potentially be crashing into or cutting things that you want to do. So it's good to be able to see where the tool is going when it does that preview. Okay, I like the way that looks. That's fine. I'm going to go back to my 2D view and let's get some artwork. So I'm going to look up, okay, I'm going to look up an airplane vector. Vectors are like line art. It's generally going to be black and white, low detail, something that's gonna engrave well. It's not going to be too complex of an image. So we're going to copy that image. And this is just for demonstration purposes. So, you know, we're not selling this. We're not making money off of it. So not too worried about grabbing that image. Once we got these dots around it, that means that we can move that bitmap around. So I'm just going to put it in the general area that I think I want to engrave that at. And then we're going to come over here to the create vectors. I have it selected. I'm going to click this little bird trace bitmap, And I just got a low complexity image, so right off the bat, I'm just going to hit preview. If you want to try and change what that preview looks like, you can modify some of these settings. This bottom one is just how much of the bitmap you can see. It doesn't really have an impact. I kind of like that. It looks like a little puff of smoke, little interruption of that trail there. I think that'll be fine. So now I'm going to select my line. I'm going to try and do a profile with this one, just a little bit of a different toolpath. Now I've already created a toolpath with this particular tool. So I'm going to come in here and verify, but yes, all of my settings are still the same. So from there, you just got to make sure your start depth is 0, your cut depth is still the same. Okay, we're only going 10 thou in. And let's calculate. Now, something to note about the name. It's a good practice to not just leave this with a default name. If you do that and you save it, you might be overriding someone else on their name of their file on that particular thumb drive that also didn't listen to the directions. So we're going to go ahead and give this a name. Best practice is to name it your tool dimensions. So I'm going to call it a 1-inch V-bit. Don't get tripped up on a certain way you have to spell it. Really, we're just trying to get 1-inch V-bit. So, if that's 1-IN V-bit, that's fine. And then I'm going to give it a name of, airplane, so I can tell what it's going to be cutting. And let's hit calculate. And let's preview it. Okay, it's good. Now, if we want to get that mirrored on the other side, I can select my lines. I can mirror selected object, flip about job center. Let's do that. And let's drag it over there. You can also use the arrow keys to nudge the artwork around, trying to get it lined up just the way you want it. And I'm going to just double tap this, and rather than creating a whole new toolpath, I'm just going to shift and click on this one to add it to my previous artwork toolpath. So now they're both being done in the same toolpath, and I'm done. So now when you go to export this, you're going to want to click these check boxes and find this save toolpath. It looks like a end mill cutting into a floppy disk or something. So we're going to do visible toolpaths to one file. Verify that the tool numbers are the same. Okay, both of those are using tool 1. And then we're going to go to this button here, machine configuration management. So these should be your settings. Hang out on the screen for just a second. And I'm going to come down here to this plus. I'm going to click this plus sign. And we are using a ShopBot Desktop Max, so we should be finding an S. For S. Okay, ShopBot TC inch. So this is what we need. ShopBot TC inch.sbp. That's the file type. And we're going to go ahead and hit apply and OK. So now when I go to save toolpaths, I should see machine. That's my desktop machine. The post processor is ShopBot TC inch. And we're going to save. Now at this point, you will be saving this to a thumb drive. If you're all done with your file today and you don't have a thumb drive yet, you can go to the documents, make a new folder, give it your first name, last name, and class period, so period 1. Okay, I'm going to open that. And I'm going to name it, okay, well, you're going to name it your first name, your last name, and class period would be good. And that's that. All right, good luck.